Dajahan, hi guys, it's Shanae and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm not reacting, damn it, this is the second time in a very short while that I've done that. Reading, not reacting, reading. Uh, Scum Villian Self-Saving System, what a fabulous start. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm reading Scum Villian Self-Saving System Volume 4, and this is the final one for today. Hello! Not for today, for this week. Where is my brain? I think I left it behind. This is going to be a very interesting read along if this is the start of it. So, anyway, today's the final one for the week. It's moved from where I usually do it on Thursdays at this time. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do a read along next week pre filmed, but I'm going to try. So if I do end up posting them, if I do end up managing to film them, they will be going up at the time where I would usually be doing my live read-alongs, if that's making any sense. Also, sorry that I'm a little bit late. I kind of set everything up except my computer, which is the most important part. And I just realized I don't have my mic plugged in. That is not good. Wow, we're struggling today. The worst part is I tested the audio beforehand and it sounded fine. So I didn't even think about the fact that the mic wasn't plugged in. So please tell me if the audio is still okay, or if it's giving problems now that I've actually plugged it in the way that I'm supposed to. Because apparently I'm brand new to this and a total disaster. Okay, so while I wait to find out if the audio is okay, let me quickly jump to the correct page for so long. Okay. I think I'm gonna need an extra pillow here. Is the audio okay? Yes, no, maybe, sort of. I hope there's still at least audio. That's my biggest concern, because sometimes when I connect the mic, it just freaks out. Anyway, so we were on... Okay. We were at the top of page 180 for anyone who wants to follow along with their physical copy of the novel. And it does seem like we're glitching, so I hope that even if the visual is glitching, that the audio at least isn't. But it's very weird because it seems like the connection is fine according to YouTube, but then why is it behaving strangely? Anyway, I think we can just get into it, and if there are errors, there are errors. I'm so sorry, but let's just get going. Also, just a quick note, I am going to be taking a 10-minute break on the hour like I usually do, and then we're going to be back for the next more or less hour of reading. Okay, that's right, you didn't read that wrong. On Anding Peak, the disciples who ran around here and there all their lives like exploited servant girls lived in a dormitory called the Leisure House. Leisure my ass. Great Master Airplane, shooting towards the sky, swore he hadn't come up with the name with any satirical intent, but nowadays, every time he saw those words, he was overcome by an incredible malice of this world. Shang Qinghua found his own small room. Exhausted in both body and soul, he persevered and laid out his bedding, then turned round to pour himself a cup of water. But as soon as he turned back, there was another person lying on his bed. Oh, excuse me. In an utter cliché, the new teacup he had just received from the steward's office dropped from his hands right onto his foot. His leg softened, nearly sending him falling onto his rear. My king. Mo Bei-jun turned to face him. He was expressionless, but his voice was cold as ice. Ooh, okay. You'll follow me for the rest of your life, hmm? Shang Jinhua was going to cry in fear. Mo Beijun had even followed him back here. He'd never thought. No, strictly speaking, it wasn't like he'd never thought about it. Okay, yes, tell me more. After all, Mo Beijun had a special ability. Mysterious phantom, come and go like a shadow. Shang Qinghua had thought it up in the first place so Mo Beijun could help Bingge slaughter and pillage, and so he could move under the cover of darkness anywhere and at any time. Shang Jinhua proceeded to babble non-stop. My king, allow me to explain. That day, as soon as I went outside, I just wanted to drink some congee and come back. But who could have known that fate was messing with me? I ran into a familiar Xiong. I was afraid he'd ask too many questions and I'd let something slip, and that he'd take people to look for you, my king, and pick a fight with you, which wouldn't have been good. In addition, your injuries weren't causing with in addition, your injuries weren't causing you serious trouble anymore, so I thought it through from a different angle and decided that for my mission I had to endure disgrace and follow them back here. From where, if I saw an opportunity, I would. He really is quite a smooth talker, isn't he? The hand Mo Beijun was using to prop up his temple seemed to have gotten tired, and he switched to the other. They told you to return and you just followed them back? What else could I have done? Shang Jinhua asked, aggrieved. Refuse to submit on pain of death? Show my hand and fight? That wouldn't do. Aside from the fact that I can't defeat them, the important thing is that I still have to be an undercover agent for you, my king. So how could I ruin my reputation with Sangchong Mountain now? In the midst of this wildfire burst of enthusiasm, he struck the iron while hot. A report for my king. I've already become an inner disciple. Doesn't that demonstrate ample drive to succeed? Doesn't that show I have a lot of potential? Kissing up. He was kissing up as hard as he could. However, no matter how much it looked like he was kissing up on the surface, Great Master Airplane shooting towards the sky's inner heart was as placid as a spring day. He had always firmly believed. 1. There's gold when a real man kneels. Yes, in that order. 2. A real man doesn't cry for no reason, but if he doesn't cry at times like this, then when will he? Okay, so just a quick footnote. A corruption of the saying, below a man's knee there is gold, meaning that a man's subordination is as rare and valuable as gold. Shang Qinghua's alteration implies profit in subordination. Interesting, okay. These two major life principles told him that in times of great need, kissing up a bit wasn't anything remarkable. If you thought about it another way, Mo Beijun was a character Shang Qinghua had created, and as the author, Mo Beijun was like his own son. For a father to concede a bit to his own son, to show a bit of love, that clearly couldn't be called anything strange. What was that saying? Children are the debts parents owe from their previous lives. Ping, ping, pang, pang. Shang Jinhua suffered another good beating, and thereafter hugged his knees, crouching in his chair, where he adeptly fooled himself into taking this as a pyrrhic victory. I've never heard that. After stretching his muscles and joints, Mo Beijun lay down on the bed, where he sprawled out and turned his back to Shang Jinhua. He spoke in a sleepy voice, neither loud nor soft. We'll continue tomorrow. Shang Jinhua was struck silent. Continue? He had the urge to scream and shout, to call down the entirety of Tangchong Mountain to accompany him to death. Of course, the reason an urge was because it could usually be checked, and because it shouldn't always be carried out. Not even removing his boots, Mo Beijun lay upon Shang Jinhua's brand new, not once slept on bed. Shang Jinhua's heart was as desolate as a winter wasteland. My king, This is Tong Mountain. A highly lethal pillow flew over and struck Shang Qinghua, making him grimace in pain. Oh goodness. Shang Qinghua picked up the pillow. He attempted tact. My king, that is my bed. Mo Beijun struck up a finger and waved it at him. Cool and aloof, he said one word. Mine. Understood. Because Shang Qinghua's whole person belonged to Mo Beijun, his things also belonged to Mo Beijun. Naturally, this included his bed. Did the reverse also stand? At this kind of time, that one saying applied, but with a twist. What's yours is mine, what's mine is also mine. Where have I heard that saying before? Oh my goodness. Shang Qinghua rolled off the chair with a huff and silently went to pick up the broken pieces of teacup at his feet. He began to hum a little tune as he did. You're on the bed and I'm on the ground. I get radish husks and you eat meat by the pound while tidying his new room. At least a single pillow had been kindly bestowed upon him. Before, he hadn't even had that. Knowing how to be content with your situation, you'll always be happy. He cuddled his pillow. It was finally time to retire after a long day of service. That is very interesting. You know, like speaking as a shipper, the fact that Mo Beijing is like, you are mine. I mean, we know that it could be interpreted in an absolutely grim and horrific way, but it could also be interpreted in a romantic way. Hi, how are you? Sorry, I'm good, thank you. Have you watched the Spiral, or are you planning to watch it? So here's the thing, because I've had a lot of people asking me about it, so I'll just quickly mention it here as well. Um, because that show is not technically aired, I unfortunately won't be able to react to it on YouTube, but I have it up on a poll on both membership and Patreon. And if enough people vote for it, which I think currently it's literally about 50-50, I think Mysterious Lotus Casebook might be one in the lead, I'm not 100% sure. But it is possible that it's going to be going up on Patreon, but that will depend on how many people vote for it. And then I'm gonna be doing like 2 episodes a week for that because the episodes are so short if it does win. So yeah, that's unfortunately all I can do with regards to that show. I really do want to react to it, but YouTube is just not possible at all. Um, 3 days later, Shang Jinhua was as hardworking as a happy little honeybee. Mo Beijun had slept in the leisure house for those 3 days, then disappeared without a word. Only with this had Zhang Jinhua fully realized just how unscientifically god-tier the cheat he'd given Mo Beijun was. 3 days. In 3 days there had been no warning bells. No suspicion, no nothing. Not a single person had found out that a demon had strutted all the way up to live on Unding Peak and ordered about a future elite logistics disciple as his own beast of burden. Like a freed surf singing in joy, Shang Jinhua floated about as full of energy for a while, right up until he received his next mission from the old Unding Peak Lord. Unding Peak's missions were invariably day-to-day miscellany? I suppose that's the correct way to pronounce it, differing only in whether you battled through logistics or struggled on the front lines. But it was inevitably alarming to be in close proximity with dangerous organisms. For example, rushing in to deliver blood replenishing talismans and pills to Baijiang Peak when they were in the thick of battle with resentful spirits was as cruel and frightful was a cruel and frightful type of mission, no matter how you looked at it. At least Mo Beijun was a capable protector. Shang Jinhua thought Mo Beijun had already tossed him to the back of his mind, but on several later occasions, when he ended up in hot water, he would be fished up in passing by some strange creature that was clearly demonic in appearance, and he was thusly able to remain intact. Yeah, I'm totally shipping it, I'm sorry. This really counted as stick close to me and I'll protect you, didn't it? Shang Jinhua couldn't help but conclude that clinging to thighs and whatever was both quite useful and quite necessary. If it weren't, he never would have survived this far. I originally, when Shang Jinhua, aka Great Master Airplane, was like, I've been clinging to the thigh and it is glorious, or whatever he said, um, I thought he was talking about Lo Binghe's thigh, but now it's becoming very clear that the thigh that he has been clinging to and that has been glorious is Mo Beijun's. Which is good, because I don't think Shen Jingqie would have appreciated having to share Lo Binghe's thigh with someone. Part 3. One day, Shang Jinghua's concise great system delivered a new command: become the Anding Peak head disciple within 3 years. He had already run missions into the outside world and made a good showing under Mo Beijun's care, but if he wanted to become head disciple, he would also have to pay more than a little attention to affairs within Tangchong Mountain itself. As everyone knew, all the cannon fodder supporting cast in Proud Immortal Demon Way only had an IQ of 40. Therefore, the so-called palace intrigue was pretty much all at this level. So the old Anding Peak Lord already had a head disciple. Let's call him A. A was outstanding to the max, where outstanding meant being a master of serving tea, changing water, washing clothes, and folding blankets, and that he considered a dab at what? And that he was considered a dab hand at the housekeeping services center. Some days the old peak lord requested that A make 12 delicious flat cakes and send one to each peak. All Shang Jinhua needed to do at such a time was stealthily scatter a ton of salt and sugar on every flat cake that A had meticulously made in order to render them flat out unpalatable. Repeat the above process 3 times, and okay, now the old Peak Lord had finally lost all hope in his former senior disciple. Oh my soul, they didn't. Like, that's how he became senior disciple? Are you kidding me? Considering how tough Shen Jingqi's situation was, this feels way too easy. And maybe I'm like misremembering how easy Shen Jingqi actually had it, but I don't think it was this easy. About it, if you can't even make a good flat cake, what can you possibly do? Now all Shang Jinhua needed to do was display his expert culinary skills a couple of times and he could successfully ascend. This was called, if you don't have enough IQ, make up for it with stupid plot twists. If you can't do the best, then be the worst. Oh my word. If the plot is too imbecilic, the readers roast it like crazy. That's all kind of a success. In Proud Immortal Demon Way, these types of plots were too numerous to count. The way in which readers flocked together all year round to roast them could have been said to be one of the great spectacles of the Zhongdian comment section. And the fiercest roasting of all was none other than Peerless Cucumber. As Shang Xinhua thought about this, he couldn't help but feel a bit of nostalgia for those comment section companions, and for the one dear friend in particular. I wonder how you're gonna feel afterwards. He truly missed the force behind those inexhaustible howls that rang along the lines of airplanes shooting towards the sky. It's exactly because these kinds of ideas that you're only a third-rate stallion novel writer. However, as the unending peak head disciple, his troubles only increased. For example, in his time as an outer disciple, he never would have had the chance to descend the mountain on a quest with Shen Qingque and Liu Qingge. How many lives of disastrous karma must he have lived to draw this stupid special prize? Tangzhong Mountain placed a high emphasis on maintaining kinship between peers. It was common for a handful of head disciples to group up and sally out on side quests every now and again. On this one, the division of labor between the three of them was clear. Liu Qingge was the thug hired to be a vanguard, while Shen Qingque was in the center in charge of feigning civility and deploying sneak attacks and finishing blows, as well as waving his fan and being a poser. But don't let anyone know he said that. And Shang Qinghua? Naturally, he was the one in charge of driving the carriage, making in reservations, carrying luggage, and managing both the trip's income and expenses. Logistics, you know. If only he had been let off so easily, that would have been great. They say that at night, if you stuck your head over the edge of the well and looked into its mouth, you'd see your reflection within, looking up as it smiles faintly and beckons. Out of nowhere, it drags people in and drowns them. Sometimes you'll even see your dead relatives. Shang Qinghua coughed. Shen Shishong, Liu Shidi, can you let me finish first? He put the scroll down. Shen Qingque whisked a book out from his sleeve. He could turn on his poser act any time and anywhere, sitting or standing. At present, he was leaning on the trunk of an old banyan tree in the shade, putting his magnificent scholarly ascent on full display. Meanwhile, Liu Qingge had already gone to stand by the mouth of the well and stuck his head over the edge to look inside. Liu Qingge had already. Oh, sorry. Liu Qingge wanted to wrap things up as fast as possible to avoid having to interact with Shen Qingque at any point during the trip, and Shen Qingque wanted to let Liu Qingge finish doing all the hard work and get lost as fast as possible. Neither one cared to burden himself with the other's presence. Each had their own considerations, and neither was listening to Shang Qinghua's careful explanation of the mission. Liu Qingge looked back up. It didn't. Shang Qinghua understood. Liu Qingge meant my reflection didn't smile faintly and beckon me. He spread his hands. Well, how about we have Shen Shishong go over and try? Do you want to get rid of Shen Shishong, Shang Qinghua? Just a quick question. Shen Qingque stowed away his book, swapped it for a folding fan. He stood over the side of the well. Please step aside. Liu Qingge had already stepped aside a good dozen paces. Shen Qingque carelessly took a look into the well, but this also seemed to yield no results. Shang Qinghua flipped through the scroll, papers rustling. That's so strange. This clearly said. The unfortunate thing was, no matter how hard he rustled the paper, he couldn't drown out the sound of Shen Qingque's malicious question. We've both tried. Isn't it your turn? Sure enough. In this world, even the monsters bullied the weak and feared the strong. When the other two had looked, they hadn't seen a damn thing. But when it was Shang Qinghua's turn, he clearly saw his own reflection coquettishly wave its hand. Without another word, Liu Qingge smacked his sword hilt. In a powerful arc, Cheng Lian flew from its sheath and rushed into the well. After a moment of silence, the tranquil surface of the water began to churn and bubble. Shang Qinghua scrupulously took one step back, then another, retreating a safe distance away, only to hear a burst of ghastly wails from a giant, wispy blob of spirits spewing out of the well and shooting into the sky. Oh, okay. You want to see, but you're. It's okay, it will be here for you when you come back at a time where you don't have to be stressing. I hope you have a good day at work, but yeah, I hope you enjoy the replay later. Okay, let's see. Um, Liu Jingge smashed apart the clumps of women's heads that were chasing and biting at him. Oh, get back! Usually, once the fighting started, any Unding Peak disciples not in charge of replenishing supplies were supposed to scram as far away as possible and hang back at a safe location. Unfortunately, Shang Xinhua had miscalculated and didn't scram far enough. All his means of egress were blocked by the resentful spirits, which had taken the form of a white haze. Now that things had come to this, he could only bust out his special ability. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed on the spot. I. Oh no! Not him and the fainting. Oh goodness. I love that that's his special ability. Playing dead was a time-tested technique. In the chaos of battle, Liu Qingge and Shen Jingqie accidentally pressed their backs together and their faces simultaneously contorted with looks of revulsion. Shen Jingqie had already shot out a spiritual blast, which brushed by Liu Qingge's shoulder as it passed. Liu Qingge, angered, immediately retaliated with a blow. Great! The entirety of their combat forces were now ignoring the enemy in order to fight among themselves. Are you blind? Shen Jingqie yelled. What are you hitting? Liu Qingge wasn't any more polite. Who hit first? Who went blind first? Shang Qinghua lay on the ground, eyes still rolled back. He had clearly seen when, moments ago, a faint white shadow peeked out from behind Liu Qingge. Shen Jingqi's attack had passed Liu Qingge's shoulder to disperse it. As he watched the blows, his peers rained down on each other, grew fiercer and fiercer, their eyes growing red with bloodlust. Forgetting to play dead, he sat up and called weakly, You guys don't fight. Liu Shidi, you misunderstood. In fact, Shen Qishong was just. Shen Jingqi flung out his hand, and several deep cracks were smashed into the wall by Shang Jinghua's head. Dust and pebbles streamed down. If you're going to die, then die completely, Shen Jingqi said icily. Don't change your mind halfway. Look, I don't like the original flavor of Shen Jingqi, but he has his funny moments, okay? Without another word, Shang Qinghua collapsed and went back to contentedly playing dead. At last, they sealed away the whelp creatures and all the resentful spirits it had collected in a retrieval vessel, not missing a single one. Shang Qinghua led over the cart and horse. Without sparing them a single glance, Liu Qingge took off down a different road. Shang Qinghua said hurriedly, Liu Shidi, where are you going? Liu Qingge snorted. I will not journey alongside a backstabbing colleague. Shen Jingqi clapped his hands and smiled. How wonderful! For my part, I don't care to journey alongside someone who's all brawn and no brain. Shang Shidi, let's go. Oh, it's a wonder that Shang Qinghua tolerated Shen Jingqi, considering who he was, uh, as like Shen Jingqi, as well as who he was as Peerless Cucumber, because neither one has a great connection to him, I don't think. He grasped Shang Qinghua's shoulder, and Shang Qinghua squeaked an agreement through teeth clenched in pain. Finally struggling free of Shen Jingqi's evil clutches, he caught up with Liu Qingge to caution him. Liu Shidi, Xishong has a word of advice to offer. Don't cultivate by yourself all the time. It's easy to fall into tree deviation. Liu Qingge still hadn't responded when on the other road Shen Jingqi used the base of his fan to rap on the rails of the cart. Shang Qinghua hurried back. The whole way home he watched Shen Jingqi closely while driving the cart. Shen Jingqi was leaning on the side of the carriage reading a book, but under Shang Qinghua's stare, his expression grew darker and darker. He narrowed his eyes. What are you staring at me for? Shen Shishong, I really wasn't going to say anything, Shang Qinghua said timidly, but since you've asked me so sincerely, then you're holding your book upside down. No! Oh my word! Why is that so funny? Oh goodness. In a split second, Shen Jingqi's face reddened. He abruptly rose and drew his sword. No, 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 don't do anything rash. Shen Jingqi had the thinnest face. If you tore down his pretense right in front of him, he would remember you for a lifetime. Shang Qinghua was already regretting the quip. But if a person like Shen Jingqi, who had perfected the art of poserhood, was holding his book upside down, he really had to be incensed. The sound that sounded about right. He had gone to all that trouble to do a good thing, but the result hadn't met his expectations. But if that was the problem, then he should just go and explain himself to Liu Qingge. Just admit he was trying to help him out. But Chen Jingqi wouldn't do that. If you won't do it, just let me help you explain, thought Shang Qinghua. But Chen Jingqi wouldn't compromise his own pride. Maybe he was too embarrassed. People really shouldn't twist themselves into knots. That's just self-torture. Shen Jingqi stared at him with a vicious gaze, and cold sweat flowed down Shang Jinghua's back. After a while, Shen Jingqi... Sorry about that. After a while, Shen Jingqi finally sat back down and sheathed his sword. What's a sword? Sword. With great effort, he composed himself, then said with a superficial smile, Shang Qinghua, shut up, alright? Shang Qinghua's heart itched ferociously. He raised a hand. Can I say one more thing? Shen Jingqi rubbed his temples with his right hand, then lifted his chin to indicate permission to speak. Shang Qinghua looked at him with an earnest gaze, then spoke the most meaningful and heartfelt string of words he had spoken since an electric current had shocked him into proud immortal demon way. If, in the future, you see someone fall into a chi deviation, don't panic and don't rush up rashly thinking you can save them. You must stay calm and call for help. Don't try and do it yourself. If you don't, you'll definitely be more of a hindrance than anything, and you'll make a big mess, and you'll abandon yourself to despair from then on. You'll never be free of it for the rest of your life. Even jumping into the Yellow River won't wash you clean. Chen Jingqi was mystified. If someone else fell into a chi deviation, what would that have to do with me? Why would I panic? Why would I want to help? Shang Qinghua's face was the very definition of I knew you'd say that. Either way, just make sure you remember. She did not. She did not do that to us. Are you kidding me? Number one, I'm lost my bookmark, which is great. So we'll just use a hair of tongue. Just in a second. Are you telling me that in the same way that we just saw Shen Jingqi try and help Liu Xingge and it was misunderstood, the entire scenario about Shen Jingqi killing Liu Xingge because of chi deviation was misunderstood as well? Not the killing him part, but he was... Are you telling me he was originally trying to help? Maybe because he had feelings for Liu Qingge or something like that? Or he's just not as terrible as people think. That could also be the option. Um, but was he really trying to help Liu Qingge and he killed him and then all of everything else just kind of spiraled out of control from there? Like, that would be super tragic. And the fact that not even the Shenqing Chia of the, like, the BL version of the novel knew that. Like, it was something that would have then been kept secret until we saw it from the only person who would know it from his perspective is the author. That is really sad. I hope that's not the case, but I can't think why NXTX would throw this bone out there if it weren't the case. Okay. Once Shang Jinhua became the Peak Lord, he at long last no longer needed to bow and scrape to anyone. A busy life was still a busy life, but at least he had been promoted from exploited servant girl to head of internal affairs. Interesting. Hi! Mm. This totally counted as rapid progress in long steps. Apparently, that particular person on Qingjing Peak, whom no one could afford to offend, had fallen ill. After he recovered, a secret meeting was held on Chongding Peak. In the side hall of Chongding Peak, 10 of the 12 Peak Lords were present and accounted for. Do you feel that Qingqi Shidi has been very odd these past few days? Ye Qingyan asked, completely focused on the topic. Several Peak Lords agreed. More than just odd, said Liu Qingge in a solemn tone. He's practically a whole different person, muttered Qi Qingqi. Just then, Shang Jinhua stepped into the side hall, worn and weary from travel. Over the past few years, uh, Chen Tao Peak's dragonbone cantaloupe seeds had been selling quite well outside the sect, and he had already spent several months rushing about on sales trips. He had been dragged into this mysterious meeting as soon as he got back, and he still didn't quite understand the situation. He rubbed his hands together. About that, I haven't seen Shen Shishong for a few days. Could everyone please elaborate? How exactly has he been odd? He had a calm and harmonious conversation with me for a whole 2 hours, said Ye Qingyan. Shang Qinghua was both speechless and terrified. My goodness, how odd. That really is very odd. Ordinarily speaking, the bridge between these two was impossibly burned. Without rebuilding the bridge, there was absolutely no chance of harmonious developments. Thus far, the T minus 5 sentences until they part on terrible terms rule had held true as a baseline normal. A whole 2 hours worth of calm and harmonious exchange. This was more than a fantastical level of progress. In the Lingqi caves, he helped me, said Liu Qingge. Shang Jinhua finally remembered. Right, by now Shen Qingqi should already have helped Liu Qingge to his death. So how could Liu Qingge still be hanging about, sitting here to attend a meeting? Was it possible that the warning Shang Jinhua had given Shen Qingqi after defeating the wild creatures had actually made an impact? The other Peak Lords continued to list Shen Qingqi's every behavioral oddity over the last few days. Sustaining injury while beating back an impetuous demoness, thus stepping forward to protect his disciples and showing care and concern that Shang Qinghua's face began to twitch. He thought it over back and forth, but no matter how he looked at it, this kind of altruistic, self-sacrificing character behavior was seriously OOC. Unable to resist, he said, Wait, he couldn't have been possessed, could he? Wei Shishong, how is your sword trials terrace? Did he visit? At the sword trial terrace of Wei Qingwei's Wanjiang Peak, there was a mystical sword known as Hongjing. which no person had ever been able to draw. If something like a resentful soul or evil spirit was to approach the blade, it unsheathed of its own accord. If Shen Jingzhi really had been possessed by some impure creature, as long as he approached the sword trial terrace, Hong Jing would emphatically sound the alarm. However, Wei Qingwei said, "He went 3 times and tried to draw it, every one, and there was absolutely no sign of movement. There's no demonic energy in his body," Ye Qingyan said slowly. "I could detect no signs that he had been possessed." Chi Ching Chi spread her hands. "It doesn't make any sense for him to be possessed. Possession at least involves some sort of goal, but he hasn't been doing anything. He's even more idle than before." Why do I love this? Like, it's very interesting to be able to see this from the other characters' perspectives. Because from Shen Jingqi's perspective, he was like doing really well with deceiving everybody, you know? And I think it's because at that point, as the readers, we also didn't know what he didn't know. We didn't like really think about the fact that it would be odd that he's able to hold a conversation with Ye Qingyan. After the discussion session, they remained unable to reach a decision. In the end, Mo Qingfan said, "It's not necessarily a case of possession. In my opinion, perhaps Shen Shishong's old problem has reappeared." All the peak lords looked at each other. What the old problem was didn't need to be said aloud. Everyone understood. Shen Jingqi, as a person, was ambitious and aggressive, proud and arrogant. This wasn't the first time he'd tried to force instant success. Maybe he had gone off to cultivate in secret again and had ended up falling into a chi deviation. Mu Fan continued his analysis. "I've heard of quite a few such cases, when a person is hit on the head with a large rock, or if they perhaps suffer a violent shock. Sometimes they lose a few of their memories of the past. So it's not necessarily impossible for someone to fall into a chi deviation and forget their past, thus leading to the temperament to undergo major changes." "Then, is it possible to recover?" Ye Qingyan asked. Chi Ching Chi wrinkled her nose. "Zhangmen Shishong, do you actually hope he'll remember and recover his previous character and conduct?" Ye Qingyan started. "Me? I cannot say." When he continued, it was earnestly. "Even though the way he is now is overall very good as well, if he can remember, it will be for the better. Before, he never offered a proper greeting when he met Zhangmen Shishong or his fellow sect members," one of the other peak lords said in confusion. "He never visited us at our homes, and when he spoke, it was all needles concealed in silk floss, full of biting sarcasm. What was good about that? The way he is now is quite an improvement." Ye Qingyan smiled faintly, but he did not speak. "The last time I went to write his prescription for Without a Cure, I examined him," Mu Qingfan said awkwardly. "There was no significant symptoms, so it would be difficult to know where to begin. I'm afraid we can only let nature take its course." Okay, interesting. So this is happening after Without a Cure, which I guess makes sense, because it also kind of explains why we hadn't seen Shang Jinhua at the start of the novel. Um, Having reached the verdict, the Qingling Peak Lord has lost his memory, celebrates and spread the joyful news. The meeting adjourned. After this meeting concluded, Shang Qinghua felt he was very much obligated to investigate these strange happenings in passing while delivering Qingjing Peak's funds. But before Shang Qinghua started his investigation, he went to Baijiang Peak. Normally speaking, in terms of seniority, Qingjing Peak was ranked second in Tangshong Mountain, and Baijiang Peak was ranked seventh. After making his deliveries to the first-ranked Chongding Peak, his next stop should have been Qingjing. But on one hand, Shen Qingqi was too hard to please, and Shang Qinghua had to rack his brain every time he went to figure out how not to offend him. On the other hand, Baijiang Peak loved fighting, so Shang Qinghua felt safer giving them their funds first. That is fair. Safer how? It was precisely the sense of safety a small shop owner felt when handing his protection fee to the local gang boss. Why is he so funny? Oh my goodness. The one who greeted him was Liu Qingge's Shidi Jijie, who was as enthusiastic as always. The two exchanged some small talk, and after the handover was complete, Jijie said, "Shang Shishong, take care, I'm returning to the training grounds." When Shang Qingqi realized that Jijie seemed reluctant to see him leave, he said, "Liu Shidi has been staying at Baijiang Peak more often lately. Has any Shidi had a sudden increase in cultivation?" Liu Qingge spent all his time in the outside world looking for people to fight. No one on Baijiang Peak was a match for him, and he typically only came back once a month at most. Whenever Baijiang Peak's disciples and juniors flocked to Qian Tao Peak to seek treatment, that meant he had just returned. But lately, Qian Tao Peak's doorstep had nearly been trampled flat by those great lords from Baijiang Peak, and the medicinal peak's funds were getting light. Oh goodness, okay, that is quite interesting. It's kind of hilarious in a weird way, even though it probably shouldn't be. Mu Qingfan had started to ask Shang Qinghua for loans every few days, which Shang Qinghua found strange. He couldn't help but wonder had an extraordinary genius who could stand up to Liu Qingge appeared on Baijiang Peak. So he asked. Jijie drooped in gloom. "It's not our peak, it's Shen Qingqi." Shang Qinghua hadn't expected an earth-shattering news. Oh, sorry. So he just smiled and nodded. "Oh, Shen Qingqi, Shen Qingqi?" As Shang Qinghua digested the enormous amount of information contained in those two words, he was almost ascended out of shock on the spot. "Shen Qingqi? At Baijiang Peak? At the Baijiang Peak training grounds, no less? Doing what? Getting a one-sided beatdown from Liu Qingge? No. Given his skill in drawing aggro, it was probably a group beatdown. But what if it became fatal? He's an important scum villain, you know. If he gets beaten to death, who's gonna torment Bingge?" Oh my word, this is hilarious. I love how he's still worried about the plot at this point. He has no idea that this is like the bare minimum of concern right now. Shang Jinhua, what's that look in your eye? Jijie asked after silence. "Don't look at me like that. We didn't kill anyone. Shen Qingqi is still alive and no one's done anything to him. You should be asking what he did to us." I startled so badly. I think my parents are packing and there was just a loud noise from here. Goodness, okay. So Shang Jinhua jogged with Jijie all the way to the training grounds. On the high basalt platform, Liu Qingge and Shen Qingqi were in actual fact merely crossing swords in an orderly match. Liu Qingge's movements were much slower than usual. Rather than calling it a cross sword, he might as well have called it a feeding his opponent training strikes. The space between his brows was still rather smooth, and it emitted none of his typical homicidal tendencies. Oh goodness, okay. Just then, Shenqi's sword struck air. He knitted his brows and his left hand twitched. Shang Qinghua's heart suddenly stretched taut. He glanced at Jijie out of the corner of his eye and saw that his expression also twitched, like he had an urge to shout out loud. The two glanced at each other in a flash of wordless understanding. Jijie's heart still palpitated, said in a low voice, I always feel like Shen Qingqi is about to deploy a concealed weapon dipped in poison or something. Shang Qinghua expressed his deep agreement. Heroes think alike. It looked like Ji Shidi understood this character very thoroughly, exactly what he expected from the fellow who had once picked a fight with Shen Qingqi at a brothel. They were old enemies who had both soundly lost the faces of two whole peaks. Shen Qingqi drew back Shuya and stopped to think. For one, he didn't let out a laugh cold like rustling wind, and for two, he didn't look askance at anyone. If one looked at him now, one would see a mild brow and peaceful gaze that still carried a modest air of elegant nobility. Soon after, Shen Qingqi said, "I don't understand." Liu Chunge flicked a swift and fierce flourish with his sword. "Don't understand what?" A disciple next to Jie muttered, "Heavens, he doesn't understand again." I can't take it anymore," another disciple said quietly. "My stomach feels bad. I'm going back." "Shidi, wait for me too," Jie said hurriedly. What are they complaining about? I don't understand." Shidi pushed him back. "Stay, didn't you just get back?" On the platform, Shen Qingqi said, "Just then, in those few moves, if I blocked your sword with my right hand and let loose a spiritual blast with my left, finding an opportunity to strike your stomach, I would have had a chance of winning." "Not possible," Liu Jingge scoffed. "Most possible," Shen Qingqi persisted. "If you could have won, why didn't you try it?" "Isn't this just sparring?" Shen Qingqi said aloof. "Attacking in earnest would be out of line." Liu Jingge didn't bother to reply. Instead he yelled into the crowd below the platform, "You, get up here." Oh no. What is Liu Jingge doing right now? I feel bad for his disciples. The person he selected ascended the platform with an expression like the hero Yi Xu, grimly prepared to stare death in the face. Using the method Shen Qingqi had suggested, they traded a few blows with Liu Jingge before getting blown straight off the platform by Chen Lian. Liu Jingge sheathed his sword and turned to Shen Qingqi. "See, it wouldn't work." Shen Qingqi snapped open his fan and waved it in front of his chest. "I see," he said, all smiles. "Liu Shidi's reflexes are too fast. It wouldn't work after all." Every time he says, "I don't understand," Liu Shishong grabs someone to demonstrate until he understands. Why is this hilarious? Oh no! I love this so much. Jijie quietly complained to Shang Jinhua. No wonder the injuries at Baijiang Peak had only increased over the past few days, while Qin Cao Peak's front courtyard was as busy as a marketplace. Shang Jinhua had only one thought in response to this, that Shen Jingqi had to be doing this on purpose. Why is Shen Jingqi not realizing what he's doing to these poor disciples? Sorry, I was students. I couldn't think of the correct word. After he descended the platform, Liu Qingge continued to train, beat up the Baijiang Peak disciples. Shen Jingqi and Shang Jinhua exchanged greetings, then walked down the mountain together. Just as they were about to exit through the gate, Jijie caught up with them, carrying 2 sacks, which he gave to Shen Jingqi and Shang Jinhua. Shang Jinhua didn't understand, so he undid the tie to take a look. Inside he saw 2 balls of bloody, hairy things nestled together. Oh! "And this is..." Liu Shishong caught the short-haired beasts, Jijie said, expression stiff. "Apparently they taste very good." Ugh. "Shishong, please take them back to your own peaks to cook them as you please." "Short-haired beast? What short-haired beasts? Did I really ever create this creature? Is it edible? Are you sure?" It looked like Chen Chu was also highly suspicious of the creature's edibility. Thank you for your trouble. Shishong said, "This is a gift in return for the tea leaves Qing Jing Peak recently sent." Jijie recited woodenly. Tea leaves? Chen Chu had given Liu Qingge tea leaves? What was this? Were they exchanging presents? Internally, Shang Qinghua yelled, "Holy hell!" while externally he kept a smile on his face. You mean to say that this is all thanks to Shen Shishong's generosity? What sort of high-quality tea leaves were these? They were harvested from the tea fields of my senior disciple Ming Fan's family, Shen Jingqi said affably. As for whether they're high quality, won't Shang Shidi know if he comes for tea at Jingjing Peak? Shang Jinhua thickened his face shamelessly. Then I have Liu Shishong's generosity to thank as well. So, each carrying a sack, talking about this and that, they walked towards Qingjing Peak. As soon as they passed the mountain gates, serene wind caressed their faces and faint birdsong chittered away. It was an atmosphere entirely distinct from that of the outer world. Together they walked over a soft layer of green bamboo leaves that covered the ground and found themselves feeling several times more refreshed. For some reason, Shen Jingchu's mood was quite good. He didn't look the least bit like he had just lost to Liu Qingge. He even offered an idle bit of praise. Liu Shidi's swordsmanship is truly quite something. Shang Qinghua couldn't resist reminding him, "Shen Shishong, you... How many times did you lose?" Shen Qingchu thought it over. You're asking about this morning? It was only 7 or 8 times. Then how are you this calm? Shouldn't you be gnashing your teeth in fury, tears staining your face like raindrops on a flower petal? A cuckoo crying blood as you whip around to go back into seclusion for 3 months, swearing to duel again? Don't you know you're being OOC? Can't you show a bit more dedication to your role? Shen Jingche bashfully tapped the hand of his fan on his neck. "There's nothing you can do about losing to Baijiang Peak, Lord. It would be more accurate to say that winning would be the unusual outcome." Shang Jinghua had no words. He felt there was no way to communicate with this guy. It's because technically both of you are speaking the same language, but because you don't realize it, you're speaking past each other. He's lost his memory. He definitely fell into a chi deviation and lost his memory. If this Shen Jingqie and Liu Jingge were playing out a scene of a friendly senior and respectful junior, full of harmonious fraternal love between fellow sect members, oh heavens, maybe in a few days Shen Jingqie and Luo Binghe would be striking up flirtatious banter. My good author, are you psychic? Like, that is just a quick question. The second after this frightful vision flashed through Shang Chihua's mind, a white shadow darted towards them, and something sticky and clingy suddenly threw itself into Shen Qingqi's arms. The soft little lump called out, "Shizun!" Shen Qingqi was nearly knocked on his back. He swayed, then grabbed onto a thick bamboo stalk and finally managed to regain his footing. He noticed Shang Qinghua detachedly observed the scene, expressionless. He couldn't fault Shang Qinghua for his frozen expression. At the sight of that little wee... Okay, sorry, this is gonna sound weird. That little wee little lady killer with his two arms encircling Shen Qingqi's waist like a steel hoop, the name Binge had nearly escaped his mouth. Shen Qingqi stiffly waved his fan with one hand, embarrassed. "If you're going to call to me, then just call. Don't drag your voice out like that, throwing yourself at people every day, and while your shu is here. What manners of a decorum is this?" Norbinger slowly removed his hands and stood straight. He obediently said, Xiang Shishu then, after this disciple finishes morning lessons, he waited to hear for Shizun to return. I forgot myself for in a moment of excitement. Great master, airplane shooting towards the sky, his heart nearly crumbled. Lobing her, switched to hugging Shen Jingzhi's arm. Shizun, why were you out for so long? There are a lot of people today. Oh my word. The way that Shang Qinghua's entire worldview is collapsing and I'm just living for it. Okay, I'm gonna halt it here for the 10-minute break and then I'll be back at 13 past to continue until we're on the top of the hour. Okay, oopsie. We are back, and I wasted absolutely no time to immediately bump into something. Um, anyway, okay, so I think we can just immediately continue again. I wonder how long this chapter for Great Master Airplane is. Not that I'm like minding, I'm actually really enjoying this section, I'm just kind of curious. Oh wow, okay, at least 50 more pages. That is quite a lot of page time dedicated to him. Um, okay, let's see. As Shang Hua took in Shen Jingqi's leisurely and contented smile, he couldn't resist guessing how many times the Qingjing Peak Lord hadn't understood earlier, and how many times he'd had Liu Qingge demonstrate for him. Liu Qingge automatically took the sack out of Shen Jingqi's, sorry, Luo Binghe automatically took the sack out of Shen Jingqi's hands. Next time, can I go too? That depends on your progress in swordplay, Shen Jingqi said casually. There's some sort of monster in the sack. Your Liu Shishu said it's edible. See if you can clean off the hair and figure out how to cook it. You've made Binga into a kitchen girl? Only the female protagonists are allowed to eat the male protagonist's cooking. Can't you stay in your place? Ah, forget it. Shang Chi didn't have the energy. Oh, Binga happily agreed. As he shook the sack, the thing inside suddenly began to struggle. Shizun, it's still alive. But what is that turn? I got confused because I thought for a moment it was a question mark, and then I tried to turn it into a question mark, and then I realized no, it is an exclamation, so hence the weird tonal shift. Anyway, by the time they arrived at the drawing room of the bamboo house, Shen Jingqi's flock of disciples had surrounded that mysterious creature and were taking turns poking the sack. With each poke, the short-haired beast let out a plaintive cry, and yet they were delighted each time, clicking their tongues in wonder. Shizun, it really is still alive. What do we do if it's still alive? Do we still kill and eat it? Let's not, it's so pitiful. Shang Qinghua forced himself to ignore this flock of young disciples sitting all over the ground and lowered his head to drink his tea, his heart twitching. Remember the last time he'd come, every disciple had worn a face full of great bitterness and deep resentment. They'd stood like pines or sat like clocks, each with an old text in hand, reciting wherever they were wherever they went, like they were chanting curses, quoting chapters and verses when they spoke, a musical cadence to their voices. We looked at them today. Was this still that renowned Qingjing peak that produced countless poser youths full of literary airs? This place had become a daycare center for ADHD children. Ah, I feel seen. If it's still alive, then keep it as a pet, said Shen Jingqi. Let's eat it, Ming Fan hurriedly retorted. We've never kept one before. We don't know how much it needs to eat, and changing its water and taking it out for walks and whatnot will be awfully troublesome. Ning Ying Ying pouted. That's enough. If we keep it, it definitely won't be you taking care of it. Shizun would obviously give it to Alor. She lifted her head and asked, Shizun, where did you get this strange thing? The Baizhang Peak Lord gave it to me, a return gift for the tea. At this, Ning Ying Ying whined. Shizun, I don't like Baizhang Peak. They're so annoying. Last time they used their superior sword skills to bully Alor. They were chasing and beating him. Chang Chenhua thought this quite normal. Baizhang Peak's uniform malice towards Lo Binghe was entirely natural. It was the sort of instinctive reaction single-celled organisms had towards traces of concealed evil. This wasn't throwing shade at Baizhang Peak. Chang Chenhua was a fan of theirs for his part. After enumerating their shortcomings, Ning Ying Ying put forth her request. Shizun, you have to help us teach them a good lesson. Pah. Shen Jingque choked once, turned toward Shang Jinghua and smiled politely as he coughed. These children, what are they on about? There ought to be harmony and familial affection within the sect. How could I teach them a good lesson for such a reason? Shang Jinghua repeatedly stated his agreement, returning the same forced smile and drinking tea like his life depended on it. Oh no. Miss Yu Ying, your Shizun doesn't need to make a move. Liu Qingge has already taught them quite a cruel lesson. In fact, Shen Qingque is in charge of harmony and familial affection, and Liu Qingge is in charge of teaching them a good lesson. This right here is the true nature of a hypocrite. Oh my goodness. Shang Qinghua was deeply comforted by this. Even after going through a chi deviation and losing his memory, sure enough, Shen Jingque was still his treacherous old self. Luo Binghe had gone to fetch tea leaves, and at this moment he entered the drawing room to present them to Shang Qinghua. Come, Shidi, we have been indebted to Anding Peak's care for a long time now, said Shen Jingque. But one kid on the floor was still unwilling to back down. Shizun, you have to avenge Alo, Ning 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 said, impassioned. Shen Jingque was at the end of his patience. Ying Ying, go play outside. You mustn't avenge me or whatever else, Luo Binghe said hastily. It's just that this disciple's skills are inferior to theirs, and he lost face for Shizun and Qingjing Peak. Your foundation is just a bit lacking, and you can't expect to catch up to them straight away, Chen Qingque said, offering words of comfort. As long as you remain diligent, given some time, you will assuredly surpass them. Ming Fan scoffed. It would take 100 years for him to surpass Baijiang Peak. Ning Ying Ying flew into a temper. If you look down on Qingjing Peak and Alua that much, why don't you just go to Baijiang Peak and see if they'll take care of you? Shen Jingque put his hand on his head in his hands. Didn't I tell you to go play outside? Why are you still here? Binghe, get them outside quick. Don't make a circus of yourselves in here. All right, Shizun. But as for this thing, are we eating or keeping it? Shang Qinghua was struck dumb. He was choking down so much that his heart was about to stop. This scene, featuring Shen Jingque as the ever-attentive teacher and Luo Binghe as the clingiest hanger-on. What the hell was this? Don't tell me Shen Jingque really did go to Baijiang Peak and mess with people just to avenge Luo Binghe. Oh my word, why did I take so long to catch on to that? This benevolent father and filial son act, oh, you think that's what's going on, but it's not. No, it was more like lifting one's trade to eyebrow level. No, treating each other as honored guests. This was even more fantastical than Shen Jingque and Luo Qingge's harmonious spar. If things kept going on like this, maybe there really would be a day when they exchanged flirtatious banter. Pa, if the day really came, he'd eat 3 kilos of feces. So how are those 3 kilos coming along, Shang Jinghua? After Great Master, airplane shooting towards the sky, finished swearing, he had a rare moment of careful thought. He had never quite used classical idioms properly, and he had hauled out his limited supply to describe Liu Mingyan's beauty. The ones he used with the highest frequency was soft bosoms trembling, and as delicate as the finest gossamer. Oh no, the fact that he himself is aware of that. Because I remember Shen Jingque, well, Shen Yuan making that comment earlier. To use treating each other as honored guests was correct here, right? If he had looked at the literary meaning, then yes, it was correct. So, lifting the tray to eyebrow level when delivering a meal refers to deep respect between spouses. Treating each other as honored guests also refers to mutual respect between spouses. I mean, with both, you're technically correct. It's just a little bit further in the future that happens. At that moment, the great master airplane shooting towards the sky studiously struggling to recover from the episode, had not yet realized that the scum villain, Shen Jingche, had already been replaced by the unmatched hater, Peerless Cucumber. To think that in days of yore, when this guy's rants had grown excessively ferocious, Airplane had sometimes casually cursed him, maliciously praying that no matter how peerless his cucumber was, he would never get the chance to use it for the rest of his life. Who could have expected that in some manner of speaking, this curse had been fulfilled? Oh my word, guys, I can't deal. Okay, these days, Bingo's mood was especially bad. Shang Qinghua could understand, as the stallion protagonist who, in the original work, could sleep his way across the continent solo. He had now captured and imprisoned Shen Jingche, and yep, just imprisoned him. Imprisoned him and nothing else. Could you believe it? He was the original author, and even he didn't dare believe it. If he could still control the current Bingo with his pen, guided by the principle of satisfying the protagonist and satisfying the reader, he would absolutely have let Lo Binghe defile Shen Jingche hundreds of times. That's a grim thought. Yeah, hundreds of times over and over, like skewering a kebab. This definitely had nothing to do with his personal grievances against Peerless Cucumber. Definitely not. No props, positions, or location would ever be repeated. Things would get easier once it was skewered, mind you, and of course, feelings would develop during the skewering. See, this is why I don't read things written by Great Master Airplane shooting towards the sky. I read things by MXTX instead. In comparison, the current Bingo's life was the dull and arduous sort in which he might go 3 years without knowing the taste of meat. Shang Qinghua couldn't help but feel sorry for his dear son. So, no brainless idiot would dare go up to Lo Binghe and be a nuisance at this kind of time. In the assembly hall of the underground palace, everyone hurried about their own business. Xia Hualing was sewing together the giant net of immortal binding cables that Shen Jingque had torn apart as she stole looks at Lo Binghe, sometimes biting her lip in dissatisfaction. Mo Beijun was taking a nap at the west end of the hall, eyes closed. Shang Jinhua bounced his leg, idle to the point of agitation. I like how just with simple references, it's very easy to place where in the novel we're at. He really didn't have anything to do, and he hadn't wanted to come to the assembly hall either. But this was demon territory. If he didn't stay within arm's reach of Mo Beijun, who could say if he wouldn't be swallowed whole by some manner of bizarre creature? Just when he was about to crawl over to Mo Beijun and risk a beating to request that his king find somewhere with less tense atmosphere to nap, Robin Hurst suddenly said one word. If. Every demon in the hall perked up their ears. If you hold unique feelings for a certain person, how can you make them understand your intention? No. Treating the Great Hall of the Demon Realm as his diary. Why am I loving this? Oh Margaret, you're so clueless. Poor Ice Brother. He was totally like a terminal patient, desperately turning to any doctor he could find, even though his question was veiled. How couldn't they all tell that he was looking for romantic advice? Moreover, he was actually trying to have a serious discussion about the sort of thing in front of his subordinates. Sure enough, oh my word. Okay, just before we move on, because I'm expecting the context will come in the next page, but look at this art. Isn't this glorious in the funniest way possible? Like the ire that you can see. It's okay. Anyway, sure enough, people, demons just shouldn't fall in love, thought Shang Jinhua. Because as soon as they do, their IQ drops like a stone. Obviously, no one dared to tear down Lobingher's facade and expose him directly, but this question was really very unsuited to the demonic approach. After a long moment, not a single person had answered. In fact, the answer was so simple that any normal human could have given it to you. If you liked someone, you should just tell them. Unfortunately, there was not a single normal person on the scene, and aside from Shang Jinhua, there also were no humans either. Mo Beijun thought about it. With the path in his mind was given to with the path his mind was given to take, there was no telling how he had interpreted unique feelings. Oh no. Whatever he says, I'm gonna interpret it as this is his way of courting Shang Jinhua. Just know that. You have been warned. Beat them up 3 times a day. Oh. Lobingher made a stop gesture with one hand and said wisely, "You don't need to answer." Of course, everyone present, the only one who had a natural advantage due to their gender and who therefore might be able to field this sort of question was Sha Hualing. So the others all swept their gazes towards her. With, "What the hell? Why should I provide this sort of advice to the man I want to take for myself?" written all over her face. The finely shaped lips and brows of Sha Mei Mei, who had been extremely popular in the original work, twitched several times. Finally, still spasming, she let out a dry, "Why doesn't my lord ask Senior Meng Mo?" "I've already asked." Oh no. Not him, like, hounding all the people in his life about this, said Lobingher. No one knew better what sort of nonsense answer Meng Mo had given than Shang Jinhua. That guy was the same as Shang Jinhua. He was clearly the "just do them first" persuasion. Oh no. Shang Jinhua broke and let out a chuckle. Xiao Hualing had been brooding, her chest full of repressed emotions, with nowhere to vent them. Latching on to his brake, she erupted, "You dare? Who are you to sneak into the assembly hall and make a disturbance while my lord is discussing important matters?" Oh, bless her for calling it, like, important matters. I mean, it is to us, but it shouldn't be to them. That kind of question couldn't be called important matters, could it? And he had only let out one sound. How did that count as a disturbance? As this wasn't the first time Xia Hualing had picked on him, Shang Jinhua was adept at meeting her with indifference. He kept himself planted in his seat, pretending he was nothing more than empty air. As expected, Mo Beijun was unconcerned. Xia Hualing saw that no one was paying attention to her and indignantly wrung her long fingernails. "My lord, Mo Beijun brings him everywhere every day without the least bit of discretion, and even brings him to the assembly hall? What's the meaning of this?" Lobingher was also unconcerned. "You see him every day. Are you not used to him yet?" Xia Hualing was going to faint. But this was the first time in months that Bingo had expressed an opinion on Shang Jinhua's existence. Immediately, Shang Jinhua started up an ecstatic internal chant of, "My son noticed me! He noticed me! Ha!" What he didn't expect was Lo Binghe taking a look at him and saying, "Since you laughed, does that mean you have something to say?" Shang Jinhua was at a loss for words. Xiao Hualing let out a "Ha," followed by, "Well asked, my lord. Since he's so familiar with humans, he must have some remarkable and clever insight. All of us would do well to listen with respectful attention." I mean, as far as getting back at him goes, I feel like that's pretty clever. Shang Qinghua turned back to look at Mo Beijun, who was sitting behind him. Surprise, surprise, he had no intention of helping him out of the situation. So Shang Qinghua braced himself and said decisively, "Well, of course I have something to say. The secret lies in 2 words. Be clingy. As they say, a fierce woman fears a clingy man, a brave hero fears a pampered lady. As long as your skills are up to par, you can grind an iron bar into a needle. Even if he's as straight as an embroidered needle, you can still bend him into a paperclip." "What's with the straight and bent?" Xiao Hualing asked. "Don't speak the human realm's dialect, my lord. I think he's simply acting enigmatic on purpose." But Lo Binghe was unreservedly immersed in Shang Qinghua's account. "I'm still not clingy enough," he muttered. "Still?" Oh, word bless him. That is why he has been even more clingy than usual. Everything is making sense. Shang Qinghua babbled non-stop. "Clinginess is the main tactic, but aside from this absolute truth, there's another terribly important angle you must consider. Gentlemen must understand that woman's love comes from admiration, and men's come from a desire to protect. The matter of women we will not discuss for now. I am convinced no woman could resist being subdued by my lord's peerless and godlike strength, his elegant manner, and that defies the heavens, and his sincere affection. So we will reserve ourselves to the other case. If you, no, my lord, if my lord wants a man to understand his true intentions, and furthermore to respond in kind, then what ought my lord do? It's quite simple. No man doesn't wish for a weak, lovable, and docile partner. And what do I mean by lovable? Lovable means some person or other that can evoke a heart's tenderest affections, so a partner must be unquestionably be the most obedient, the most. Nonsense and flattery flowed forth in equal measure, and the crowd in the hall peered at Lo Binghe, seated high above them. His face was gloomy, his pupils glowing red, and a murderous aura surged beneath the surface, painting the most vivid picture of untouchability, aka discontent. The distance between him and the words weak, cute, docile, and obedient was practically a bottomless chasm. That is hilarious, but also quite apt, and I feel like really accurate to how he ended up winning over Shen Qingqie as well. Um, a part of me, as a newly discovered Shang Jun, Shang Mo shipper, I don't know what you would call it, kinda wants to see Mo Beijun be weirdly jealous right now, but I don't think we're gonna get that. Xia Hualing couldn't resist letting out a scoff. Shang Jinhua hurriedly shut his mouth. Lo Binghe rubbed his temple. "Continue." Having been given official approval, Shang Jinhua continued to explain. "I'll take Shen Jingque as an example," he said, brimming with ill intent. "This guy, he's a straight man." What does straight man mean? Well, a straight man is a normal man. Obviously, I'm not saying you aren't normal, my lord. Rather, he's very much values his dignity as a master and teacher. And teachers, they all like students who do as they're told. So if you want him to like you, the first step would be to listen to him and be good. The hall full of demons and beasts were practically scared stiff by his brazenness. Impudence, Xia Hualing snapped. You mean to have my lord pretend to be piteous and obediently listen to him? My lord is the grand ruler of the demon realm. How could he do such a shameless thing? That's right. That's precisely what I mean. Shasha, turn around and take a look at the thoughtful expression on your lord's face. Does he look like he thinks this sort of thing is shameless? Oh my word. Impassioned and vehement, his mouth running like a torrent from the heavens down to earth, Shang Qinghua concluded his 20-minute-long romantic consultation. Xiao Hualing had already throttled him to death with her eyes 10 million times, and as soon as willing her left, Shang Qinghua hurriedly moved over to Mo Beijun's side, pressing close to seek protection. Mo Beijun looked askance at him. So, if you want to be liked by a man, the best method is to act pathetic? Shang Qinghua thought about it. In theory, that would be correct. Mo Beijun reached out his hand. Thinking he was about to be beaten up again, Shang Qinghua hurriedly put his hands over his head, but the pain he expected never arrived. Mo Beijun only lightly tapped him on the top of his head. Afterward, seemingly in a bit of a good mood, he got up and started walking out of the assembly hall. Though Shang Qinghua was confused, he couldn't handle Xiao Hualing staring at him from the side, her fiery gaze like that of a tiger eyeing its prey. So he hurried to catch up, taking 3 steps for every 2. I still think I got my moment. I think the reason why Mo Beijun was happy was because he thinks that Shang Qinghua is acting pathetic in his pursuit of getting Mo Beijun to like him. Am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. And I just lost the thing that I've been using because I lost the bookmark. This is absolutely great. We're doing very well today and very organized. Mo Shang. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay. Damn. Where did the first 25 minutes of this next hour go? I don't know. Okay, we are on to part 4. In the end, it was still a whole ruckus. As Shang Qinghua had planned in his outline, Maigor Ridge exploded into a mass of flying sand and countless pieces of rubble, with boiling smoke and clouds of billowing dust. Moreover, he performed a heroic feat on the way and saved Mo Beijun, who didn't know how to fly. When he grabbed the hand of Mo Beijun in midair, Shang Qinghua could clearly see the astonished disbelief in his eyes. Understandably, Mo Beijun undoubtedly held a firm belief that Shang Qinghua hung by his side solely to protect his own pathetic little life, and the human sole uses were, at most, flattery, boasting about him, and the target of venting his anger or whatnot. And if they ever met any real danger, Shang Qinghua would definitely be the first to run to save his own ass. To be honest, Shang Qinghua himself also held this firm belief. He dared not say he was even more astonished, even more disbelieving than Mo Beijun. Ever since then, perhaps because he had earned merit protecting his master and had performed well, his wages, material benefits, treatment, and so forth had all improved, and he was also permitted to return to Tangchong Mountain and visit his old home. Liu Qinyan, that great philanthropist, let all bygones be bygones and even permitted him to return to Anding Peak, as well as to continue holding the title of Peak Lord. These past few days in the leisure house, Shang Qinghua had, for the first time, truly been leisurely to the point of agitation. After munching on half a kilogram of melon seeds, he suddenly realized that the system hadn't made a beep in quite a while. For once, Xiang Junhua took the initiative to poke it. The system gave him an earth-shattering response. Objective complete. Downloading return home function. Xiang Junhua was speechless. After a moment, he began to furiously shake the system's non-existent shoulders. Objective complete. Return home function? What return home function? Is it the one I'm thinking of? Huh? Oh, great system. This is the first time you've said so many words. Can you say a few more? I'm begging you, quick. Basic completion of Proud Immortal Demon Way's original outline achieved. Slight deviation in romance plotline. Objective complete. Retrieving function to return to original world. Download complete. Activate return home sequence. I don't know how to feel about that. It's like I was fully on the Mo Xiang ship right now, and the moment that he returns home, that's gonna screw with my Mo Xiang ship. So I don't like this idea. I was kind of keen to see whether or not Shen Qingque and would return to the original world, and we would kind of have him meet a Lobing her counterpart in the real world or something like that. But I mean, I'm kind of glad we didn't get that because it feels like that would be unpacking an entirely new thing. Also, how excited are we for the fact that MXTX is back in the world of writing? Anyway, sorry, I just got sidetracked there. Basic completion of the original outline that he agreed with. All the holes that needed to be filled had been filled. But this slight deviation of romance plotline wasn't quite right. Bingo was now fully gay. How could you say that was a slight deviation? Fine. In fact, in his original outline, Bingo hadn't even had a romantic plotline. He had been doomed to fade away, alone and unaging forever. If you insisted on adding a romance plotline, all right, that was whatever. So putting aside all the system's rambling, that meant he could return to his original world. Tears streamed down Xiang Junhua's face. He hadn't written in so long. He reminisced about his airplane shooting towards the sky account, with its fans and haters equally matched. Reminisced about that crowd of trolls in the comment section. Reminisced about the rich benefactor who'd give him tips. Reminisced about that laptop he had used since his first year of university, eternally crashing and screwing him over, and the giant video files on the hard drive of, you understand. And then there was the spectacular pile of boxes and boxes of instant noodles behind his swivel chair, the newest flavor of which he hadn't yet gotten the chance to taste, even after buying it at wholesale price. A dialog popped up from the system. Function download complete. Activate. 2 different colored buttons followed. Yes, or maybe next time. Xiang Junhua had a powerful urge to press the red button on the left, but something stopped his hand. As it happened, he didn't really have any family on the other side. His parents had divorced early, each going their separate ways, and they had both made all new families for themselves long ago. He occasionally got together with them for a meal, but no matter which side it was, he regularly felt that his presence was extremely obtrusive. As he politely picked up food and politely gave them subservient smiles, the meals would be even more formal than they would be if he was eating with real strangers. Even though his father was his legal guardian, when they weren't face to face, they didn't have contact other than a few phone calls on the New Year and holiday, or when his father asked him if he needed money. Sometimes his father would even forget to ask that, but Xiang Junhua never reminded him. No matter where he was or who he was talking to, all he did was smile that familiar subservient smile. He was an adult, after all. His parents still had to pay his university tuition, but it was up to him to find ways to pay for the rest of his expenses. It was when he was thinking of such ways that he happened to register for an account on Zhongdian and began to write. At the beginning it was purely to vent, and he wrote whatever and however he wanted. Though the stories were unbearably crappy and even struggled to get monetized, he did manage to get good reviews from a niche crowd. At one point, it suddenly occurred to him to change his style and see if he could rescue his subscription numbers, which had dipped so low that the website editors had long since lost interest in asking after them. Thus arrived the instant hit, Proud Immortal Demon Way. Airplane shooting towards the sky had achieved supreme enlightenment. He had found his way. The more he wrote, the more of a shut-in he became, and the more of a shut-in he became, the more he wrote. As a classic worthless otaku, the people with whom he had the best relationships and got along with the most were all on the internet, oceans and seas apart. He basically didn't have any friends like Morbei Jun, and it would likely be very hard to find any again in the future. Yeah. No, I'm glad you're catching up to what I've been saying. Wait, Morbei Jun, a friend? Since when had he started seeing Morbei Jun as a friend? I think there's more to it, but we shall see. Shang Hua scared himself with the thought. He hurriedly grabbed another sack of Qian Tao Peak's specially produced dragon bone cantaloupe seeds and binged another half of it to push down his fright. Then he went to sleep. When Morbei Jun dragged him off Unding Peak to the northern border of the demon realm, blankets and all, he had just finished his lemon seeds and was dreaming, mouth full of salt. He dreamed he was devouring those promising kilos of crab. He was frozen awake. Morbei Jun tossed him to the ground, straight into the knife-like snowy winds of the northern border. His silhouette and expression was more severe than ever. Though Morbei Jun was quite cool, very cool, Shang Hua was already too frozen to have any time to spare on enjoying his coolness. His tongue started icing over as soon as he opened his mouth to grovel, so he obediently shut his lips and started to crawl upright while shivering, wrapped in his blankets. An icy fortress rose from the ground ahead. Morbei Jun set off towards it without a word, and Shang Hua hurried to follow. The fortress doors, laid from blocks of ice, rumbled open and closed. They met not a single person all the way down the long, deep flight of stairs until they approached a sleeping chamber, where a few guards and demon maids stood, not daring to make a sound. Chang Hua peeked at Morbei Jun's face. Though he was as haughty and aloof as usual, he looked somewhat more solemn than was typical. He couldn't resist the urge of asking, um, my king, how long will we be staying here? Morbei Jun didn't move his head, but his eyes turned toward Shang Hua. 7 days. Shang Hua was nearly knocked flat by this information. Whatever. He was very possibly right about to return home to continue shooting his airplane. He figured he might as well use these 7 days to properly bid his farewells. After all, once he returned, there would be no one to beat him up all the time or order him around like a beast of burden to wash clothes, fold blankets, serve tea, and carry water. After standing there for a while, he felt colder and colder. The Morbei clan's territory really wasn't suited for humans. Shang Hua jumped up and down in place to avoid being frozen alive into an ice statue. Morbei Jun looked at him, a smile seeming to flash through his eyes. He reached out and pinched one of Shang Hua's fingers. Quiet. It was like all the chill in his body was sucked away via this one point of contact. Shang Hua felt that the cold was still cold, but it was no longer intolerable. He couldn't help but feel increasingly rueful about their upcoming separation and somewhat loath to give this guy up. Come to think of it, even though Morbei Jun had a bit of a bad temper, was a bit bad at life skills, and was a bit pampered and spoiled, and liked to beat people up a bit too much, he wasn't too bad to Shang Qinghua. So, despite all those things that I just listed, especially at this point, his benefits weren't bad and his salary wasn't bad either. Though the beatings remained a common occurrence, only Mo Beijun was allowed to beat him up. No one else was permitted to lay a finger on him. In addition, recently, Mo Beijun hadn't beaten him up very much at all. Shang Jinhua was growing concerned about his twisted standards as to what constituted a fortunate lifestyle. You and me both. What would happen if he really returned home and Mo Beijun suddenly wanted to find someone to beat up, but Shang Jinhua was nowhere to be found? When he thought about that happenstance, he felt a pang of sorrow, like the melancholy of an actor leaving after a play was complete, all the props in place, but the people long gone. Suddenly, a bone-deep chill returned to his body. Return where? Mo Beijun said icily. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Okay, I need to know. We're gonna continue. Just give me a second. Lobing her, how to show a man you love him. Mo Jun, who regularly beats Shang Qinghua, beat him 3 times a day. Shang Qinghua, who acts extra pathetic in front of Mo Jun. Act pathetic? Mm-hmm. See, this is exactly what I'm thinking. Like, they're not on the same wavelength, but they think they are. I just can't believe that Chang Chihua hasn't put the pieces together. Return where? Mo Beijun said icily. Shang Qinghua finally realized that in his sorrow he had actually spoken his internal dialogue out loud verbatim. I think I would have preferred if he had just read his mind, because that's less like, what were you thinking, Shang Qinghua? Obviously he wasn't. Now was the real time to be sorrowful. Mo Beijun's fingers tightened like he was about to snap Shang Jinghua's index finger in half. Now you're saying you want to leave? Shang Jinghua's face pinched in pain. No, 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 not right now. Not right now? Mo Beijun pressed. What is it you always say to me? I'll follow my king for the rest of my life. He had said this phrase countless times, but he thought no one was taking it seriously. After a stretch of silence, Morbejun said, if you want to leave, then leave right now. You don't need to wait 7 days. My king, if I really leave, from this point forward, we'll never see each other again. Morbejun looked at him with the gaze of someone peering at an ant from 9 million feet above it. What makes you think I would care about that? No, we can't have the breakup scene right now unless they're gonna come back together at the end. That's the only way I'll be okay with this. Although over the years Shang Qinghua trained his face to be impervious to sword or spear, those words made his expression pinch. He still wanted to explain a bit, but the situation had played out beyond his expectations. Get out. His body suddenly flew backwards, and he crashed into an ice wall, which was as solid as steel. The stab of pain only numbed his back for a moment, before it spread through his guts. Morbejun didn't even lift a finger, didn't even spare a glance in his direction. Shang Qinghua's throat rapidly filled with a gush of warm, rusty-flavored liquid. Morbejun beating him up was nearly a daily occurrence, and he often told him to get out. Shang Qinghua should have been used to it, but at no other time had he been subjected to such an intense fury and loathing. Like countless times before, he crawled up from the ground, silently wiping away the blood at the side of his mouth, and gave Morbejun's back a subservient smile that no one could see. After standing there for a while, he tried to speak again, but Morbejun impatiently snarled, "Get out of here." I hate this so much. Like, I love it, but I hate it because the thing that's making me hate it is this fear that they're not gonna get a happy ending. Because I'm okay going through this if they get a happy ending, but if they don't, it's gonna suck. But either way, also don't spoil it. It's just, I'm just complaining out loud. Um, so Shang Qinghua hurriedly got out. Honestly speaking, though no one could have known what he was thinking in the privacy of his mind, he still felt a bit embarrassed, specifically about that fleeting thought from before concerning Mo Beijun and a friend. Shang Qinghua trudged up the stairs. The guards and demon maids he had seen earlier had been driven away, and they ran even faster than him, darting out of the ice fortress like a swarm of bees. The troll remained the same, but the situation as he left was completely different from how it had been when he arrived. At this time, a slanted silhouette approached, coming down the stairs. Zhang Jinhua turned his head, gaze briefly flitting across a pair of peach blossom eyes full of frosty light. Though this pair of eyes didn't land on him, they sent Zhang Jinhua into a fit of shudders, his heels gluing themselves to the steps. Then, furtively, he turned around and followed. Once the guards had been sent out of the underground ice fortress, it had been emptied of all demons. Mo Beijun doubtlessly thought Shang Jinhua had obediently gotten out, and thus didn't expect him to return back. So, by the time Shang Jinhua returned to the hall and front of the sleeping chamber, he had not yet been discovered. He stopped there and shimmied up a pillar so giant it could be encircled by 3 people, onto the ceiling rafters, and found a spot from which he definitely couldn't be seen, where he sat down. However, though he definitely couldn't be seen by people below him, he couldn't see them either. "What are you doing here?" Mo Beijun asked in his cold and placid voice. He sounded like he was forcibly suppressing his anger. The next voice was that of an unfamiliar young man, who spoke with a smile in his tone. "My nephew is ascending to the throne. I came for a cup of celebratory wine. Is there something unacceptable about that?" Mo Beijun didn't answer the question. He snorted once and replied only after a long pause. "What celebratory wine is there to drink? After these 7 days, you'll be the real Mo Beijun," said the other voice. "Isn't that something worth celebrating?" Shang Jinhua knew both who this was and which plot arc, delayed after the original plot had been thrown into disarray, was now unfolding. Oh hell, Mo Beijun's in trouble. I'm excited. This uninvited guest was Mo Beijun's uncle, Ling Guangjun, and the one who lay in the sleeping chambers ahead was, without a doubt, the father whom Mo Beijun had seen only a handful of times since his birth. His body, that was. According to the original outline, after the reigning head of each generation of the Mo Bei clan died, they passed 7/10 of their martial aspects to the next generation's successor. Mo Beijun was at an extremely critical juncture, but as Shang Jinhua had written in the original work, Ling Guangjun was using this precise occasion, the most critical and final day on which Mo Beijun was digesting the martial aspect, to launch a sneak attack. Because Mo Beijun had been lawfully determined to be first in line of succession, Ling Guangjun had no claim to the martial aspect, and stealing it outright would have been useless. Illegal was illegal. The ancestral lines wouldn't acknowledge him. However, if Mo Beijun died after he officially ascended to the throne, Ling Guangjun would be the only remaining descendant of the Mo Bei bloodline. So, when that scheduled time came, the recipient of this 7/10 of martial aspect couldn't just kick back and relax. Okay, unfortunately, I have to halt it here. Let me just quickly work something out. This is so good. I kind of don't want to just be reading it on my own while I'm pre-filming. Um, I forgot to put up the poll recently to double check if you guys do want me to do that, so I should probably do that. I'll try and remember to do that as soon as I finish up here. So if you want to vote on that, just go check the community post and then I shall know. But it's basically gonna only be a 1 day post because I need to have time to pre-film this, and we're leaving on Friday, so that does not leave me a lot of time. Regardless, that was glorious. I think this is my favorite chapter of the extras so far. Like, I'm just really enjoying Shang Jinhua slash airplane shooting towards the skies perspective, and this like extra ship that I kind of like clocked in the main story, but I was thinking I was reading too much into the fact that we're now having it fleshed out and basically confirmed, and maybe we're gonna have Shang Jinhua save Mo Beijun's life and it's gonna be glorious. I'm so here for it. I can't wait. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and otherwise I'll either see you next week via pre-filmed content or the week after that live. I hope you have an amazing week further, and yeah, 再见。